as as people are coming in and joining in, I did want to frame and give some context around the why behind this particular conversation, because this is long overdue. The title of this conversation is Woo Child, Black Women Working and Stressin.
Yeah.
So, short story. My husband and I threw like a little barbecue in the backyard, invited some folks over. And I would say, out of the 11 Black women that were there, 9 of them were struggling with some type of invisible disease, autoimmune related Graves' disease, colitis. One woman had requested to go on leave and asked for some accommodations. Her employer denied her the leave, and then she ended up having a very public and embarrassing breakdown, and they did not renew her contract. There was also a young woman who was 34 years old recovering from a stroke, right? And so we sit up here and we say, like, yeah, Black don't crack. Black women, we look good, but we are not well to a certain extent. And, as I've been doing this work around Woo Child, Black Women Working, the root of it is stress. So you being a stress expert, I'm so excited to talk to you today. I know I've been talking a lot, but I'm going to read your bio and bring it to you. So first of all, Dr. Wendy is my friend. I met Dr. Wendy probably it's been about 14 years. This was right when me and Greg started, started kicking it, no kids. So it has been a joy truly getting to know you. But Dr. Wendy Garvin Mayo is a passionate doctorate prepared board certified nurse practitioner who obtained her Bachelor of Science in Nursing at St. Joseph College, followed by her Master of Science in Nursing at the University of Connecticut, and her Doctorate of Nursing Practice and Leadership degree at
Quinnipiac.
I even tried to call her before the live and be like, how do you say this? And still, thank you, Dr. Mayo. So Dr. Mayo has over 20 plus years of experience in healthcare in various sectors, such as clinical, leadership, research, academia, and pharmaceuticals. Dr. Mayo used her professional and personal experiences to launch into entrepreneurship as a stress solution strategist and emotional intelligence consultant. She is also an international speaker and certified John Maxwell leadership healthcare professional coach and trainer, and author of Shape Your Life, 5-Step Blueprint for Sustainable Stress Management. Dr. Mayo is the founding CEO of the Stress Blueprint, the #1 stress management coaching and consulting firm for healthcare professionals and leaders, and host of the Stress Blueprint podcast, which you can actually access on the Reading and Digital Media page for Ray Dray Presents. So if you go on RayDrayPresents.com, you can see that. Dr. Mayo is looking for every opportunity to empower current and aspiring professionals to reduce stress and increase emotional intelligence to cultivate well-being and wellness practices while serving the world with purpose. To learn more about Dr. Wendy Garvin Mayo and the Stress Blueprint, please visit www.stressblueprint.com or email hello@stressblueprint.com, and I'll make sure you all get that information too in the playback. But welcome. Proud of you.
I didn't know she was gonna read the whole bio.
And did. So I'm gonna just kick things off and ask you, why did you become a stress expert?
Yeah, so based on personal experience. So during the pandemic, March of 2020, I was really stressed. I was working from home. I was a scientist at the time, working for a pharmaceutical company, just had my baby. And I was really having internal stressors. So really that uncertainty, indecisiveness was really creating stress. The pandemic was going on. Everybody was looking to me as the nurse as, what are we doing? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know either, right? But that wasn't really the source of my stress. The source of my stress was I wanted to go back to the field. I wanted to go back to the hospital and serve patients. So in retrospect, my stress was really related to misalignment.
Oh,
I was not really aligned with my purpose. So that was creating a lot of internal stress, indecisiveness, uncertainty, questioning, because I'm like, well, I have this baby. There's a virus out there killing people. My older mom's here with me, right? I have my husband, everyone's here. And I want to go back to the field and work in the hospital to take care of patients during the pandemic. And I have to tell you, though, that one decision changed my life. I did. I went back in the middle of the pandemic to take care of cancer patients. And it was the best thing I did.
Ooh,
Yeah.
you just first of all, you just read me that whole misalignment that like your misalignment is causing stress.
Oh, yeah.
Say what?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was totally misaligned. And, just working through that, I started really researching stress and talking about stress and helping cancer caregivers through stress. And then my colleagues, my, nurses was coming to my workshops like, we want some of this. So that's where the stress blueprint was developed. Because it was healthcare professionals that really wanted that knowledge and wanted the theory and the frameworks on how to manage stress. So that's how I really got into stress management. And I talk about stress management very differently. I don't really talk about the yoga and the breathing. All that stuff is great too, but I really talk about it in terms of emotional intelligence. It's really about knowing yourself and honoring self and realigning yourself. So that's how I talk about stress management. It's not really about the yoga and the breathing and all of that. All that's good too. But I really say the number one way to manage your stress is take back your power and take control of your mind.
Look, we ain't got
That's
to
stress
say
management.
nothing. We don't have to say anything else. Wow, that is amazing. So I'm gonna go off script a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about what the stress blueprint is?
Yeah. So the Blueprint, it's a coaching consulting firm, and what we do is we help healthcare professionals specifically and leaders manage stress by leveraging emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, there's four pillars to that. It's self-awareness, so knowing self, being able to regulate self or control self, being aware of others' emotions, behaviors, thoughts, and being able to still cultivate relationships. So, really, to exist in this world, as I say it. So, it's about knowing yourself, right? In order to manage self, you have to know self. And that's important because we are evolving human beings. So, who I was yesterday, 2 years ago, I'm not that person now, but we have to really get acquainted with self and create the time to do that because we're always going. We're just going, 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 go. We don't pause, right?
Nope.
Because life's happening, but we really have to pause and reevaluate like, who am I? What's happening? What's going on? Right? What do I want? How do I bring myself back down to baseline? So that's what we do at the Stress Blueprint. And then we have a framework we utilize. That's the book is based off that framework, the SHAPE framework, on how we really help people take back their power. And it really starts with stopping. You have to pause. You have to stop. You have to stop. But that first S is really understanding your story around your stressor. What is that? Because whatever that story is, that's real, right? It's your story. You're telling yourself that. And really exploring, is the stressor internal, is it external? Is it something you can control or something you can't control?
Okay.
Right. So really unpacking that stressor. So what's your story around it? And sometimes when I ask people that, they don't even know why they're stressed. They're just living in the cycle. They don't even know why they're stressed, right? Because stress is so normalized. It's like, yes, I'm stressed. I tell you, go like, yes, I'm stressed. Well, you know what you're stressed about? A lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't know. So it really helps you identify what are the stresses in your life and really examine them. And the H in shape is really honing in on what you want, your purpose, your goals. What is it that you want? Do you know what you want? Because whatever it is that you want or you need to hone in on, your energy and your power is being taken by that stressor, right? So you don't have a lot over here. So your capacity is
Mm.
filled up. You know what I mean? So you don't have the capacity. So it's really trying to create the dichotomy of where you are and where you want to be. And that A is assessment. What do you have? Which is very important because we possess a lot that we don't even
Mhm.
realize. Or what do you need? Or who do you need? Like what do you need? Like doing an assessment of what do you have? Where have you been? What have you gotten out of? Right? We are very powerful Black women,
Mhm.
but sometimes we forget that when we're in the cycle. So it gives you an opportunity to examine what's in your toolbox. And the P is for plan. Let's put a plan in place. And the E is for execute. Let's get it done. So that's how we help people really manage stress, is really taking back their power and their control and really, realigning with what they want in life.
Wow. Thank you so much for that. Sorry, I'm like flabbergasted because I'm taking this and internalizing what you're saying, as well. We're here to talk specifically about Black women, and most of the women who have joined us on this live today are Black women. And so, if you could talk a little bit about why Black women, especially, are stressed.
Well, I believe stress is a learned behavior, right? So one thing I always say is, when we were younger, no one was really talking about stress. No one was talking about stress management. However, you knew how stress looked, you know how it felt. You
Mhm.
know, if you came home and mom or dad was stressed or something was going, you knew the look, you knew the sound, right? Or
Yeah.
lack thereof, or no sound, but you know that feeling. But no one really talked about it, right? And I think Black women in particular, we have societal pressures,
Yes.
right? Where we have to do and be all the things. And we have to do and be all the things with a smile, without a complaint, without being angry, without all the things, right? So you don't really have time or space for stress or stress management or well-being. You just have to go. So I'll give you an example. For me, I grew up in the inner city of Boston, Roxbury. And, living in the city, it wasn't a easy place to live.
Mhm.
However, education, I always say education was my way out, right? So being a Black young woman from the inner city, going to school, that was my motivation. I have to go to school. I have to get up out of here, right? Go to school, then graduate, go to college. Great, got to go to college because that's an expectation. I have to do that.
Mhm.
So go to college, go to PWI, and they're stressed there, right? I'm a Black woman from the inner city. I'm not really familiar with all of this that's going on, but I'm here and I'm going to work my ass off because I have to be here because I'm not going back there. And then you have the family and society saying, well, you have to make it. You're the first. All these different things. Everybody's situation is different. I'm just telling you about my
Mhm.
situation. But you are just, you're going. So you don't have time to even unpack the stress of just that transition, just showing up, right? Going to class, the academic stress, the stress of being a Black woman at a PWI. And I'll tell you, in my book, the first page of it talks about that. When I first got there, the girl told me, Melissa was saying, well, we don't make it in the nursing program. We
Melissa.
we don't make it in the nursing program. So that's where I was greeted with that. First year, first day, right? So all these things we have to do, but it's societal pressure. If you have to do it. So
Mhm.
my 4 years at St. Joseph College, University of St. Joseph, was very, very, very stressful. Was very stressful for a number of reasons. Let's not. And I'm sure people can relate to this. But being in a environment where you are a Black woman at a PWI and you don't quote unquote belong. So you were fighting for your rights, people talking to you crazy, professors, students, right? Then you go back to where you came from and they talk crazy to you,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, wait, what's happening here? There's a lot of psychological stress that goes on that we don't really talk about. We just really endure because
Right.
we need to get to the next thing. We need to get the degree. Then we need to get the job. We need to get the house. Then we need to get the master's degree, right? Like all the things, and we just keep going and going because we haven't really normalized wellness. We haven't really normalized stress management. It's not, but and I'm not saying it's anyone's fault. That's just the way it is. That's just, and I think now, I think I saw something online about Black women are resting. We need to rest.
Listen.
Yes,
Yeah.
we need to normalize that, but that isn't something that's always normalized. It's not normalized, right? And then we become moms, and we become wives, and that's just another added stress.
Uh-huh.
Like, good Lord.
Uh-huh. I'm so glad you mentioned the fact that it's a learned behavior too, because that is something that I saw. My grandmother was one of the first Black female entrepreneurs in the city of Cleveland, and I literally saw her go go go. My grandmother worked till old age,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But just saw her constantly going,
Yep.
going, going. And then I saw my mom go 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 go, and they both crashed and burned. And then I watched myself go 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 and crash and burn. And so I'm like, I got to stop this cycle because I got this little girl watching me.
Yeah.
I don't want that to happen to her.
Absolutely.
Shouldn't take an illness or, some type of devastating event to make us want to sit down and rest. And when you pointed out the fact that, Black women are the 92%, right, are saying like, okay, well, we're resting and we're doing this. And I think it's really important for us to talk about, okay, yeah, but what does that look like for a group of people who, since they touched this soil, have never rested? What does that look like? And so that's the question I'm asking myself. That's the question that I'm asking, all of us to really think about that. Thank you for spelling that out around, Black women. How does stress maybe show up for or manifest itself for Black women that it doesn't, and it looks differently for our non-Black counterparts?
Yeah. Yeah, so stress. So we talked a little bit about this before, the minority stress theory about Black women and just Black people in general. We're born into stress, just living in this society. Especially we're feeling
Mm-hmm.
it now with all in the political climate,
Mm-hmm.
right? With racism, discrimination, microaggressions, and all of that. And I want to back up because we really haven't defined what is
Oh,
stress.
say
I want to kind
that.
of just I want to kind of just go there because I think we talk about stress and it's so ambiguous because it's intangible. You can't see it, you can't feel it, but you experience it. It's like a phenomenon. Well, it is a phenomenon,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I define stress as an imbalance. It's an imbalance between what someone or something is requiring from you and then your perception of meeting that requirement. So it's your perception that I can't meet what you want. I can't meet what this thing is requiring of me. So it's lack of capacity. It's an imbalance there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's perception, which is important because it's psychological. And that's why my definition of stress management is taking back control of your mind, because you change your perception, you're going to change how you look at that situation or person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you get into stress, and we're born into it, and I'm going to get to your answer, but there are different types of stress. Stress is healthy, right? Stress is not all bad. We are wired in a particular way to have stress to really protect us, right? As human beings, biologically, we're wired like that, our nervous system. But the reason I do what I do is because chronic stress, and that's the stress that really causes mental and physical illness.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're in the cycle, and I want you to think about a cycle, but we're in the cycle, and that's us waking up, getting dressed, getting the kids, going to work, all the things, and we're doing it looking like this, right? We got the makeup on, but we in the cycle. But as you're in that cycle, your body is releasing stress hormones, right? Cortisol, all these, that's the main stress hormone, all these different hormones. And chronic stress can lead to exactly what you were talking about, that the women at your cookout were talking about. It can lead to depression, anxiety, insomnia, substance abuse, dementia, high blood pressure, diabetes, impotence in men, infertility in women. We're even looking at it how it is even contributing to some cancers, because what it does is it modulates your immune system, where you can't really fight off things normally. So if you're ever stressed, you may have a little cold because your immune system is suppressed in some way.
Mhm.
So the manifestation of chronic stress is detrimental to our health. But we don't really think about that. And if you look at the numbers of these chronic illnesses, everything I just said, diabetes, high blood pressure, even stroke, and all of that, we have the highest incidence and prevalence as Black African Americans. We're at the top of the list.
Yep.
That's what's taking us out, right? Heart disease in women.
Yep.
So that's how stress manifests in our body. And that is something that we can control, right? We have some control over it, right? External stresses are happening externally, however, but we can control how we respond to it. So all the stuff that's going on right now in the world, how are we responding to it? How much are we letting in, right? How much control do we have over it, or are we just inundated with it,
Right.
right? So we you have to really take back that control and that power of what you're going to kind of let into your space, your mental or physical space.
So one of our viewers, Queen Lassie, hey Tifa, I had 8 days with hives. Thought it was an allergic reaction. After multiple tests, nope. It was stress that I didn't feel. I normalized what I was going through. Shaking my head. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. It's interesting. So me and Tifa actually used to work at Merck, and I think Nivea was like, "Hey, Nivea, and you used to work in the pharmaceutical industry as well, right?" So, but I remember, we would have to do what was called paint the patient profile, right? And you kind of sell to this particular type of patient,
Mhm.
right? And you're painting how the patient looks to the healthcare professional, and it just got to a point where I remember I was selling depression and anxiety drugs, and I was straight up describing myself. You know what I mean? And then I used to sell in the diabetes market, and it's so funny because then it's like, oh no, I know her, I am her.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it's scary because even though you may even be warned, right? In a way, working in the pharmaceutical industry, you are warned of what this person could look like, never thinking that I would become that person. So wow.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. For sure.
So, how are workspaces specifically causing Black women to be stressed? Right. That's a loaded question.
Workplaces. Well, it's the people. It
Mm,
really is. It's the people. And I say that because there are some great companies out there, some great organizations, but it's who's in charge of them. And I would say more specifically leadership. I do a lot of leadership training, and I always say everything starts and stops with you. And sometimes the leaders are the problems. But especially, the Black women that I was describing, that, like ourselves, like, you go to school, you get your degree, you get the job, and you climb the corporate ladder and all of that. And in the midst of all that, it's stressful because, I'll speak for myself. When, I was working in corporate, many times I was the only one in the room. So
mhm,
you notice that, everybody else noticed that, right? So it's kind of like you have to find your place. You have to make sure they hear your voice. um, you have to be the representative for everyone who looks like you, right? Especially working in the pharmaceutical
mhm,
industry. um, but I think it's the environment that the organization creates, right? That you're in. And I think sometimes we force ourselves to be there because we feel like we deserve to be there. And that process is stressful. But also when you get there, it's
mhm.
stressful, right? So it's what you say, how you say it, when you say it, who you saying it to. So we have to really find our footing with that while not letting people just step over us. So it's really trying to find that balance.
Balance. Yep.
That is where the stress lies. And I think it's very important that when we are in those spaces that we remember who we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not forget who we are and that we deserve to be there, and we're not there because of DE and I, right? We're there based on our merit, our education, what we fought for,
Mm-hmm.
right, in school, like the credentials, right? So those credentials were earned, not given.
Right.
It's remembering who you are. And I think what's really important about Black women in any workspace is really having that community. You need community, and I think as Black women, speaking even for myself, we like to do things alone.
We
We
do.
like to kind of not really talk about, I don't really want to talk about that, right? Because you have it all together. You're doing so well. You know, like, oh my God, like, look at your house, look at your job. Oh, you work for that company? Like, and it's just like, and then you're like, you know, you kind of shy away from like, well, I'm really not well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Externally. But like I said, we're stressed and we're in that cycle, but we wake up like this and we're ready to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's important that we're able to have a place where we can take off the mask and just be and be
Right.
open and real. So I love even that you have this space, Raisa, for us to come and have open and real discussions about, you know, life and the world and stress and being a Black woman. And I commend you for even being so transparent with your own experience, you know? Um,
Thank you for that. When I say so, the Woo Child Black Woman Working Project, I tell people I've been subconsciously writing this play for 20 years, but consciously writing it for 5 years and intentionally writing it for the past 2 years.
mm,
And it became really, really personal again when I myself crashed and burned. And so, like, these conversations is more than just, the project and selling tickets. It's really about outreach, and it is about, creating space. And then also, I got all of these dope friends, all these dope ass credentialed Black women that I know, like yourself, and like the ones that are on this call. And I'm just like, we should be sharing our expertise with each other. We give our gifts and our talents to everybody else but ourselves. And so, even if it's, just a few of us in this live session, and then I'm going to post it on YouTube, and whoever else can, find it and grow from it and heal from it. It's a beautiful thing. Um, I will wrap up with this last question for you, and then we can also take some questions if, any of the people viewing have questions. But if you could give us maybe like the meat and potatoes around how to manage and eliminate stress. And you talked a little bit about it, about perception shifting, but can you maybe be a little bit more specific around what that can look like?
yeah. So one way to really manage stress is writing. And if you can't write, you can talk, right? So, and I say that because it's important that we get some distance between the stress in our mind. Because when we are stressed, it's ruminating in our mind, right? No one knows, and we're thinking about this thing, and we're trying to solve it on, and it's all mental. So you need to create an outlet where you're writing, speaking. Like Ray said, you dance, that's an outlet too.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the writing, and I always tell my clients to write every day, brain dump, right? And you're able to see the patterns of that thing that keeps coming up for you. So writing is very important. Creating space for yourself is very important. So I always challenge people with 5 for 5 for 5. For 5 days, take 5 minutes where you can do an activity that will take you 5 minutes. So identify 5 things you can do for 5 minutes in 5 days, if that makes sense. So 5 things. And that can be writing, that can be journaling, that can be just meditating, that can be just staying still, doing nothing. But taking 5 minutes to just pause for 5 days, right? So finding those 5 things that you could do for 5 minutes for 5 days is important, but I think it's also more important to figure out, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
what do you want? And I say that in terms of like, what is your purpose? And many times when we are, in this life, we're working and we're doing all the things. And many times we're doing all those things and accumulating all those things. And because it's an expectation, it's not what we want. But what is it that you want? And once you find that out, you can realign, because it's hard to realign or know when you're misaligned when you don't know what you're aligning to.
Mm-hmm.
So understanding who you are and what you want and your roadmap to get there. And as long as you can really anchor on that, that will manage your stress. That will definitely manage it, because stress, a lot of the stress comes from other people. Like you wait, and let's really put this on the table. You cannot control other people.
No.
And that's probably the number one stressor is people. But you cannot control other people. You can just control yourself. But we have to focus on our purpose. We have to focus on what we want. We have to focus on legacy. What do you want to leave behind here? Are you working on that? Are you working in that field right now? Are you waking up every day doing the thing that's moving you closer to where you want to be, what you want to do, right? Do you know what it is? Do you have it written out? Have you seen it before? Do you revisit it? People say people poo-poo goals and all that, but those are real things. Like, because it helps you think about, what is it that I want? What am I working towards? And it helps you weed out things like this doesn't align with where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going, right? So you can put that to the side and keep going straight. But sometimes we're just so uncertain, so lost, that we're just doing and moving and doing all the things, and we're all misaligned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really understanding what is it you want, and just creating space for yourself and being gentle with yourself, and knowing that at any moment you can shift.
Yeah.
Any moment you can shift. And I say that because, again, the expectations that we have for ourselves, what people have for us, you can wake up, not even you can wake up, you can leave from where you are right now and go reintroduce yourself to somebody.
Period.
And that's it, right? But we feel like we have to do, and we, because they expect this, and I call that identity dissonance. It's like, who people think you are, right? Who you think you are, and then who you really are. But you need to get straight with who you really are, and then you present that to people, right? And you can do that anytime. So I'm giving you permission right now to do that. Shift, pivot, reintroduce yourself, figure out who you are, who you want to be, how you want to show up, and let people know who that is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying that. I at 40, almost 42, I have reintroduced myself as a whole artist. People
Love
are
it.
like, wait a minute, I thought you was STEM. No, baby, I'm a whole artist. I sing, I dance, I write, you know what I mean? And it's like, but it took me years to finally just be like, nah, actually, this is what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
When I say yes, all of the yeses when it comes to alignment and purpose and moving and operating in purpose, and how that is a huge stress eliminator. I want,
Absolutely.
oh, Dr. Wendy, yes, ma'am. Let's open this thing up. Does anyone have any questions or thoughts that they want to share with Dr. Wendy before we wrap things up? I see lots of people putting your gems in the chat. At any moment you can shift. That's it. That's the message, y'all. She gave us permission, just in case you were looking, and
Yeah.
I've done that too, right? I've looked for permission from others for me to find my own alignment. So if you are one of those people who needed to hear from somebody else, you heard it today.
Yes.
Anybody else?
I'm writing and deleting.
So listen, I want to thank you, Dr. Wendy, for lending your expertise to this conversation tonight. I am better for knowing you, and I know that everybody that is tuned in today and who will tune in later will be better from hearing from you. So thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. You're doing God's work. Again, if you want to connect with Dr. Wendy, you can follow her on Instagram. Dr. Wendy Garvin Mayo at Dr. Wendy Garvin Mayo. She is also on LinkedIn. Share your website again. Sorry, I moved your bio.
Stressblueprint.com.
Yep. And then also she is on our reading and digital media list on RayDrayPresents.com. So you can tune in and listen to her podcast at any time. Good night, y'all. Bye.